Hey guys, it's Josh from KDM Tuners. Today we're gonna go over the
Not you, I'm at the turbo.
Oh. Hey guys, it's Josh from KDM Tuners. Today we're going to tear down a turbo and show you how to check if your turbo is good. So we get a lot of questions for guys that blow their turbos or have turbos to send in, and they want to know, is my turbo good? Is it rebuildable? Instead of you guys sending the turbo out to somebody and have them tell you it's no good and then you have to pay shipping back and forth to do that, it's kind of a waste. So what we're going to do is show you how to do this at home, how to pull it apart, what areas to look at, and that way you can see if it's good or not to rebuild. And it should take maybe 30-45 minutes to look at the whole thing, but we'll show you all the ins and outs. One thing we might do in this video, we'll see how we get, would be pulling the turbo studs. So there's the other side of it. We did the downpipe video. Everyone's asking me now, what do we do if we snap a stud? So we're gonna go ahead and pull the old studs off this turbo and see how they come out. If one snaps, we'll show you what we have to do to get it out, or what we do to get it out. And we picked the worst possible turbo we could find. This thing was in a fire, it's dirty, it's horrible. Chances are it's not usable. So this is like the worst case scenario turbo you're gonna find. So with that said, let's move over to the bench and get this thing apart. So let's go over there. Okay, here we go. We're at the bench. First thing, jumping right into this, is we're gonna try to remove the compressor housing first. On a typical turbo, that's what we do first. This one's been in a fire, like I said, so it's pretty, it might be seized together. So, but we'll attempt that first, and then we'll go from there. So let's just get into this, and that's it. So first thing I'll do, turn this thing over, is we got our wastegate actuator. We're gonna remove this first to get it out of the way. There's two, everything's 10 millimeter everything on here. So we're gonna take this 10 millimeter nut off. Get this out of the way. We'll save all our nuts. And then there's two 10 millimeter bolts here that hold it together onto the compressor housing. We'll take those off. So take those out, and then we're going to slide it up and rotate that out. So hang on to these. I keep a lot of those around just in case someone's goes bad. Next thing is to get this compressor housing off. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 10 millimeter bolts. So let's go ahead and remove those same way. I'll take these bottom ones and we'll flip this thing over. Come on, baby, come out. Here we go. Let's flip this bad boy over. Let's loosen these two here. It's a little bit stuck on there. All right, let's see if we get lucky and this thing comes off. We'll get a mallet here and whoa, pound of sand just came out of that. This thing is definitely, this part of it's savable. So that's the inside of this one. These you don't really have to worry about. They're usually always good. You can save these no matter how bad they are, because we machine the inside of these out here. So we'll move that off to the side. And then the next part, let's turn this around, is we got lucky that this is not all burnt. So this is reusable so far, as long as the bushing inside is okay. And everything looks great so far. I think we might get lucky on this turbo. So let's go ahead and And we'll get that seal off later. Next step on this, to take this off, is you're going to remove this V-band. It's a 10mm nut, so let's go ahead and remove that. These V-bands, save these. They'll save everything if you can. We reuse these V-bands on all these turbos, so this one's a little stuck on there. Give it a little tap off there. So what I like to do is put the nut back on so we don't lose it. Set that aside. It's the V-band. Looks to be okay. Next step is removing the cartridge. So this is the cartridge that sits in the middle like that. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this one off. The way to do that, basically you're gonna tap this thing out around. It's gonna be seized up in here, so usually what I do is I'll get a torch and we'll heat the hell out of this, and then we just kind of tap it until it comes off. Let's go ahead and put a little PB blaster on here. My can is empty, so I gotta turn it upside down. I'll just put a little bit in there to get it loosened up, let that sit for a second. And then what we'll do is we're gonna get our torch here, and we're just gonna heat it up, and then I'll break everything loose. So let's go ahead and get that started. So, and because it was in a fire, there's gonna be all kinds of stuff that smokes and smells horrible. So if you guys ever get one that's burnt like this, make sure you do it outside or in a vented area. And then when we build this, we'll get all this cleaned up here. That should probably do it. And save this torch. You're going to need this a little bit later. So before we burn our hands, let me get some gloves. Never put latex or nitrile or anything gloves under your work gloves, because if they do happen to get through, that shit melts to your skin. It's no good. It is the worst ER visit ever. Oh, there's a spider. Got him. All right, back to the business. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna tap this out. So this hammer is not gonna do it. We need a bigger hammer. Okay, we got our 3-pound sledgehammer. When you guys do this though, be careful when you start beating on this thing. These will break. So don't just go smashing on it, because you'll snap this deal, and you snap that, there's no way to fix it. So we're just tapping it. So we're just kind of work it around, flip it around, tap it on different angles. All right. And right off the bat, this cartridge is no good, which is a shame, but we have a spare cartridge we can use. Save this. And we'll show you why this is no good. It actually cracked. I don't know if you can see that. This whole piece cracked off. I've never seen that happen. This turbo is junk. It's crazy. I've never seen that. So we'll get into this in a second. We're gonna set this aside over here. We'll move to the vise. What I want to show you guys is what we're looking for on the inside here. The first spot that we need to check on these turbos when we're looking to see if they're good is going to be right down the inside of this barrel. We want to check the lip of this here to make sure that there's no cracks. If there's hairline cracks, we can use it. I don't know if you could see this far in there, but there's a hairline crack right here. And that crack is usable. It's not that bad. So this turbo will probably last another 100,000 miles before that grows any bigger. What we can do is just clean it up a little bit with some Scotch-Brite, just to see what we're dealing with here. Because So once we blast this, you'll see the crack where you think is only a small crack ends up being a long crack. But as we can see in here, this one looks pretty good. So on the crack, this is the crack we're talking about. That's your hairline crack. It only goes maybe 1/4 inch. It's not bad at all. So this one is definitely usable. All right, so before I showed you the crack there, we're gonna leave this alone for a while, and we're gonna jump back to this and try to take these studs out later. But so what I want you guys to do, if you're doing this, is we're gonna soak these with some PB Blaster first, and then set it aside. So that way when we get back to it, it'll be nice and soaked. So we're just gonna spray some through the backside of the ones you can. There's 2 holes. You can get to the backside of the nut or the bolt, and then there's one you can't. So we're just gonna pour some in there, let it seep in for a second. I don't know if you can see it, but then we're gonna turn this over, and we're gonna pour some in the threads here. And then we'll just let that sit for a while. So we're gonna go ahead and move that off over to the side, and we'll come back to that later. All right, next up is we're going to take apart the compressor housing and the cartridge here. What I like to do here is get a vise. If you don't have a vise, you're probably gonna need one. I guess there's other ways you can do it, but I'm gonna stick this in the vise. Actually, what we'll do is we're gonna stick it off to the side so we can get that turbine out. Oop, shit. Okay, so to get this nut off and to get this whole system out, this is a reverse nut. So your whole lefty loosey, righty tighty goes out the window. We're gonna go right to loosen it out. So, and then actually what I did wrong, I jumped a step. So actually there's a nut on the bottom. It's actually the turbine, but there's like a spot for a wrench. I usually just stick that in the vise. Like that. And we don't reuse the turbine wheels on any of our turbos, so don't worry about damaging it too much. So we're gonna go right to get this off. It's a reverse nut again. We don't reuse these typically either, but hang on to them just in case. Now, many of you are gonna go in there and try to figure out how do you get that off? Only one way that I found to get these off. That's where we go put this back in the vise the way we had it. And this is where people get hung up and the phone calls start coming. What I like to do is we're gonna heat this up with a torch, and then there's a little dimple right at the top there. And we're gonna put our little punch there, and we don't even hit it hard. We just tap, tap, tap once it's hot. The shaft will drop to the bottom, and that's how you pull this apart. So there's no other way to do that. So go ahead and get your torch out again. And we're just gonna heat this up. That should do it. So very carefully, so we're gonna put this, you can get a punch or something like that and tap it. Once we get it almost off, just pull it off the rest of the way, and let it drop out the bottom. So we'll save that wheel for now. We'll loosen that up. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the shaft right out the back. Oh, don't do that. We're not saving these and they're kind of bent, so that's the turbine shaft. And next step, we're gonna pull the backing plate off. And this is our cartridge here. And then the seal, there's gonna be a rubber seal here. We're gonna save that as well. Okay, so moving forward, the next step, I'm gonna change my gloves real quick, but this is the next part that we have to check to see if it's good. This is the backing plate for the compressor. And in this little area, you can see that the thrust bushing, I guess you'd call it, sits in a housing right here. And that is your seal. So that is your front compressor seal. If that goes bad, you get oil that sprays out into your compressor, into your intercooler and all that. That's one spot that these, when you say you blew a seal on a turbo, this is one spot that it happens. The other side that it happens is gonna be this side. Let's look at this one. Would be in here. So we'll get back to this, but I'll just show you real quick. This is the other side. And what sits in there is gonna be your seals on the shaft. There's a seal right here, and that sits in that seat. So when you hear, I blew a turbo seal, the main seal that blows is gonna be right here. And that's where you get all the smoke out the back of your car and everything else. It's just this one little spot. So, but we'll get back to that in a second. Let me change my gloves. So getting back to this, we changed my gloves because it's all oily. I didn't want to ruin the other ones. We're gonna have to take this thrust collar out. And the way to do that is just take your thumb and push it out. So we're just gonna push it and then grab it on this side and kind of wiggle it out. And that's the thrust collar. Now right off the bat, I'm looking at this. So the thrust collar itself can go bad. It can get wear right here, and it can get wear on the back side of this housing, and there's no wear. So this so far looks great. There's one spot we have to check though. So this looks good. We're gonna keep that. We can reuse it. Here's one. I don't know how we're gonna show you this up close, but here's one that's no good. So what I'll do, I think, is going to get a up close side by side of a bad one and versus a good one, so you can see what that looks like. So we'll do that here over here. So that's the good one, and that's the bad one. You see the score marks in that? No good. And come over here, no score marks. So if you see something like that, your back compressor backing housing, backing plate is probably shit. So far we're looking good. So let's get back to what we're looking at here. All right, so we got the backing plate here. The thrust bushing or collar, or whatever you want to call it, is in great shape. The next thing we need to look at is going to be inside the housing. So if we flip this around, it's going to be the seat that sits inside here. What I like to do, because it's super small, if you run your thumbnail across it and you feel a groove, it's bad. Since I can't get my thumbnail in there or finger in there, I use like a little tool like this. It's a little pointer that I scribe down. And we're gonna take it inside and we're just gonna run it across the seat and see what we feel. You shouldn't feel anything but smooth. If you feel it like hit a divot or anything like that, it's no good. So the backing plate on this one is actually in great shape. So I'll see if I can get a close-up of what it looks like inside there and go from there. So 2 of the 3 spots so far on this turbo are good, which is great. So let's move forward and we'll check the cartridge and the exhaust side. So save that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to business at hand with the cartridge here. This is the most important piece of the puzzle. The third and final spot we need to check to see if the cartridge is any good is going to be this seal seat here. On this one, this is one we had previously. And I'm just checking here. This one's borderline. We'll have to give it some love and see if we could save it. But so the one we pulled apart is this guy here, and we already know no matter what the seal seat looks like, it's done, because I mean this piece here broke off. There we go. It's toast. There's no saving that. It's such a shame. All right, so we snapped this off. This turbo's cartridge is trash, but we're gonna go ahead and look at the seal seat anyways. And it's unfortunate that that broke, because this seal seat looks fantastic. And that is perfect, which sucks, because it's no good. I would use a little scraping tool like we did on the other side, and this part is great. So what this is on your turbo, you have your turbine itself is a shaft. The turbine wheel is all one piece. On the shaft itself, there's a small seal on there, and it's just a metal seal, and it sits inside this housing, and that's what seals. So it allows the turbo to snap in there and rotate and not let oil pass. So, and when those go bad, it's the only thing that happens. Most people think, oh, I'll just go replace the seal. That's not actually what fails. What fails is the housing itself. And the reason why those fail a lot of the times is going to be from an overspeed, or if the oil is not properly getting in there, something happens along those lines. And then when that happens, you get a shaft that looks like this. And I don't know if you can see it there, but this shaft is completely bent. So this was from an overspeed. This is one step away from the shaft shearing itself completely. And I think I have, yep, I don't have the shaft part, but here's one that sheared off completely. So the same thing probably happened with this one. It got bent out of shape and it kept spinning. It lost the seal completely, wobbled in the housing, made contact with the housing, and exploded itself. So this is a bad one, and this is a good one. So I don't know if you can see that. Anyways, those are bad. So as far as the turbo goes itself, I think what we're going to do is use this cartridge to rebuild it. So off that particular turbo, we saved 2 parts of the turbo, and luckily we save all of the parts from bad turbos. If we have one part of the turbo that's good, hang on to it. It's worth money, and people will buy it from you, because these cartridges are hard to find. The backing plates are hard to find. Every part of this turbo is hard to find, so even if you get a failed turbo, one part of that turbo is probably usable. So just hang on to that. And then what we want you guys to do from this point, don't try to reassemble everything. Just go ahead and put everything in a bag. And then if you're sending it to us, just send it to us like that in a bag. And then we'll rebuild it. We use all new bearings. Everything we use is new. Basically, all we're reusing is the cartridge itself, the backing plate, the housing, and the turbine housing, which is the manifold. So all that comes back to us. So we'll put that aside for now. I think from this point, we'll go ahead and try to remove those studs. Pretty much taking the turbo apart and looking at it and seeing what, if it's good or not. That's pretty much the whole video on that, because we just want you to take it apart, inspect those 3 spots. If you guys have any questions on that, shoot us some pictures on it and we can do that. We can just walk you through it. But the next step would be prepping the manifold. Let's grab our manifold real quick. When you guys send these manifolds out, the best thing to do is get these studs out ahead of time. If you guys want to attempt to take these out yourself, that's great. Or like I said earlier, if we get into a downpipe install where you snap a stud or something happens and you want to know how to get these out, this will show you how to do that. So we'll be right back with removing these. So now that we got that out of the way with the turbo tear down and how to tell if your turbo is good, this turbo is reusable. So what I'm gonna do, because we replace these studs with the ARP stainless steel studs on every turbo that we build. This has studs that are perfectly fine in it, and you know, if anyone wanted to just leave these studs in, you could technically use these studs and never have a problem. But we kind of take it an extra mile and get rid of them for you and put some better studs in there so you never have a problem. I think we're the only ones building these turbos right now that do that with the studs. You can order the studs from the other vendors. I think they do it as an extra charge. But I've dealt with so many broken studs that I don't want you guys to have to deal with that, so we just replace them. With that said, we're gonna go ahead and remove these and see if we get lucky. So there's a few methods that we use. First off, what I like to do after we soak these with PB Blaster, like someone mentioned in one of our other videos and I didn't bring up, is acetone and manual transmission fluid. If you do like a 50-50 mix of that, it'll actually penetrate the threads better than anything that you can get. So if you want to make that mixture at home, you can do that. If not, PB Blaster over the counter works okay. The other trick is when we get going, candle wax. So what we're going to do is use candle wax and a torch. We heat these up as much as we can. I use a stud extractor. You can add 2 nuts on each other and try to turn them out that way, but these are really in there sometimes. So if you get to that point, it turns into a nightmare. So maybe you guys will see us do that. Hopefully we don't get lucky and they all come out easy. So let's just get started with that. First thing we're going to attempt is we got this guy. I can get you a link down. I think I got this even on Amazon. Brand doesn't matter, they're all about the same. It's a stud extractor. And the way that this works is you're gonna slide it onto the stud, and there's a clamping force, kind of like a chuck on a drill, right? So when you get it on there, it clamps onto the stud. And what we do is we're gonna get a breaker bar on here. So prepared. Get a breaker bar on there, and then we're going to want to get a crescent wrench. I had one right here. And we're going to cinch this thing down as tight as we can get it. Okay, so that's on there pretty tight. Actually, before we do this, we got to secure this to the table. For filming purposes, I'm using this table. Sometimes I use my welding table to... Not sometimes, you usually use my welding table. Okay, so we got that cinched down, and now we're gonna go ahead and see if this stud will turn. Oh, that was probably the easiest stud that's ever come out of a turbo, of course, because we're filming. So now everyone's gonna be like, hey man, that suspiciously came out too easy. Which, yeah, again, it did. Let's go ahead and loosen this up again. That one came out way easy. Let's move on to the next one and just see if we get lucky again. So if you get to a spot where you're snapping studs, this tool is not going to work for you. Wow, that thing came out easy too. For a turbo that caught on fire, this is blowing my mind a little bit. This might be an anticlimactic ending here. If they all come out easy, I can't even show you destroyed one.
Let's break it.
2. I have another turbo we can snap. That one will snap for sure. All right, let's try again. If this one comes out easy again, we'll get another manifold and keep going until we snap one, I guess. Which I'm not looking forward to doing today, but for science. Oh my God. All right. So here's a second turbo. This is the turbo that's trashed already. So we're gonna go ahead and, actually, you know what, let's show you. This one already has a snap stud in it. So let's say you get in the car and you snap a stud in there, and this one's the worst one you can snap because you can't get to the back side of it. The only way to do it is we're gonna have to drill this out and tap it. So I guess we're gonna show you how to do that today, but just for shits and giggles, let's see if we can get these out. see if we can get one that's bound up and show you how do we get it, try to save it if it's bound up without snapping it. Because if you don't want to snap it if you don't have to. So let's just not put any lube on this one or PB blaster or anything. Let's just see if we can cause issues here and then get the wax on there and get a torch out and see what we can do here. So this one's kind of bound up in there and it's not going to come out. So as you can see, I'm already kind of wiggling it back and forth. This is the method we're going to use to try to back this stud all the way out. Now, can you imagine, I'm doing this with a 2-foot long breaker bar and try to do this while it's on the car. Yeah, right. So this is where you start snapping stuff and think, oh shit, we're gonna have to get it off the car somehow. Pulling the turbo is probably necessary. There's another option. Some guys weld nuts to this. I've tried welding stuff on here and superheating it that way and it just snaps off inside like this one did. So it doesn't always work. But what we're gonna do, get some heat on this, get some wax on there, and see if we can't get this thing to budge a little bit. So using our handy dandy torch. Now if you guys have a acetylene oxy torch, it's better. But I'm using this torch just to show you guys, for the guys that don't have a $300, $400, $500 setup, you can do this with a hand torch that you can get from Home Depot for 20 bucks. So what we want to do is just heat this up for a minute or so. I can't believe I'm going through this to show this on a video. I hate doing this. It's because I love you guys. Something about watching fire interact with objects is soothing to the soul. I don't have a problem though. Turn this off. Now what we're gonna do is this makes a mess. So if you want to put cardboard or something underneath to catch it, you can. We're just going to melt wax into the holes. And hot wax works better than anything you can put in there to loosen up threads. So we're just gonna wax the hell out of it. Get some wax in there. And then we're gonna go ahead and instantly put our tool on. My tool bench is actually made out of a Home Depot $99 storage rack that I put some wood on. So the idea behind this tool is you kind of just keep wiggling it back and forth. I can already tell this one's never going to come out. This is just going to snap. The other option is to get a torch where you can get that bolt red hot and get some vice grips on them and try to turn it out that way. But so you just kind of keep working it like this. So every time I push this way to get it out, I give it a little tug till it catches, and then I go back the opposite direction. And we're literally just working this out. Oh, we snapped it. Son of a bitch. I already knew it was gonna snap. So that's how easy they snap off. So eventually, I don't know how you're gonna get these off if you're on the car. This is gonna snap. Like I said, the other way I guess you could do it is some guys will, what they'll do even is just superheat it. So they'll grab like a pair of vice grips or something, they'll superheat the nut, the bolt until it's red hot, get wax in there, and they just, same thing, you just keep working it, and try to get it out. And sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't. On these, I've noticed they always snap. So I guess what we'll do at this point is let's drill one out so you guys can see the process of drilling the stud and re-tapping it. I have to do this all the time on these. Every shop I've taken one of these to either tell me they don't want to work on it because these, once they get hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, they're super hard. They destroy drill bits. They're just a bitch to get out. So I've been forced to figure out a way to do it myself because nobody wanted to do it. So let's show you guys how to drill it. I'm going to use a drill press today. You can do this with a hand drill, but I don't feel like doing that, so we'll show you the drill press. So onto the drill press. All right, we got this thing all jigged up, ready to go. We're gonna drill a pilot hole down the middle, and then we're gonna step it up to a bigger drill bit until eventually we're gonna see if we can either spin that out, but most likely we're gonna have to drill the whole thing out and then re-tap the threads. So let's turn this thing on. Looks like we're at probably gonna be about 500 RPM, 580. All right, that's the pilot hole that we put in there. So now what we're gonna do is swing this out of the way, and we're gonna go ahead and put a bigger drill bit in. I think what we'll do on these is 3-step it, so we'll probably do one slightly bigger, and then eventually go to a bigger guy. This. Let's see if we can get that going. The last size that we use to drill this is an H, I guess is the letter if you're using letters. I don't remember what it was as a fraction. See what we can do. Not quite there. Normally the bigger you go, the easier it gets, but apparently that's not the case. That looks like the winner right here. 1764. Alright, I think the rest of it we could probably get out with a tap. So let's go back over the table and put a tap on this thing. And as you can see, the effort that goes into drilling one of these out. Can you imagine trying to do this with a hand drill on a car with no space? No thank you. All right, next step, got yourself a tap. This is a pretty heavy duty tap I got from McFadden Dale. So I've bought a lot of taps off of like eBay, Amazon. I'm not even gonna link you to a tap because they all suck. Go to your local machine hardware store or machine shop supplier and get a real tap. This thing has changed my life. So it's extended. The other ones are like this long usually. They're a pain in the ass. This one's extended so I can clear everything I need to. But we're just gonna see if we can't turn this in by hand. It's gonna be kind of hard to get started. Yeah, let's just keep popping out, but I mean, you could hammer it in there, but I don't want to ruin my tap. This turbo is a piece of shit, so. Here we go. And if it binds up, wiggle it, go backwards. And kind of wiggle it around in there. Let the stuff come flying out. So we got a chunk in there that came out. Let's Just gonna try to work it out. There's definitely an art to working a tap, and I am by no means a master of it yet. I'm not sure I want to be. Yeah, it looks like the old threads are starting to come out, so let's just run this, keep running it in and out, running in and out. So all those ticks you're hearing is just it breaking out old material. Got to be careful with this too. If you break a tap in this hole, you're screwed. I mean, to put it lightly, you're done. I don't know, there's a method they can use with copper and a bunch of stuff to get it out, to melt it out or blast it out, but so it looks like we threaded the whole thing already, but let's run it in there again. Just make sure we get everything threaded. Yeah, we're bottomed out there. So if I were to just keep turning this, it would snap on us, but we're bottomed out in the hole. Like I said earlier, this side, there's no hole in the back side. It's just a cavity in there. So it's not like the other two where we can run all the way through it. So, blow it all out. Big chunk came out of there. And then what we do is get an ARP stud. So this is your ARP stainless steel stud that we use versus the old stud. This is what they look like. So stainless steel won't bind in here. It'll just come out easy. So we just thread it in there. And then we get our little Allen wrench, give it a tight twist to get it seated in there. And that's what we do on every turbo. So that's the process of pulling a stud that has sheared off. So you've seen us shear one off on this side. This one was already sheared off. Our attempt to pull it was unsuccessful on this. This is a trashed manifold anyways, but just to give you an idea, if you guys were to snap a stud on the car, I don't know how. I know some guys have managed to get the studs out and replace them on the car. I'm not sure how to do that. So, yeah, I just can't imagine doing that on the car. So when you get a downpipe guy, if he charges you $300 to do a downpipe install, he's either making good money on that or he's losing his ass. So if he gets lucky, he'll make good money. But if he snaps the stud, in my situation, I'd pull the turbo off the car, re-drill it, re-tap it, put some new ARP studs in there, make sure it's perfectly correct, and before I send it back to the customer. So that's it, guys. No and then. That's it. So that's our video for this week. We went over the downpipe, we went over the turbo teardown and how to tell if your turbo is good. We showed you how to pull studs off. The first one went too well, so we got a second one and made sure it was damaged. Showed you how to drill and tap a new bolt, and that's pretty much it on that. And if you guys need to see any other videos, or if there's anything else in your mind, we're getting tons of requests now on videos, so keep them coming, and we're pumping these things out. I'm not sure what we're working on next week, but I know it's something good. So if you guys like what we're doing, subscribe, help us out. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and not so we can be monetized. We don't really care about that. We just want to rename the channel in our link so it's not a number. So if you guys could help us out with that, hit the bell if you guys want notifications when we come up with new videos. And just like us if you like, share, do all that good stuff. Help us out. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, peace.